Om Sarvadharma Stapakastvam Sarvadharma Swarupakah Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishna Ayate Namaha. In Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, as the spiritual teacher, second part, we are studying the second chapter. The name of that chapter being the mood of the spiritual teacher and various communities of holy men. And that we have heard about the sadhus of all denominations that came to Dakshineshwar got help from the master in religious matters. Up to this you have read. Now we come to para 24. Whenever the master realized perfection in the sadhana of a particular religion, religious doctrine or faith, the sadhus of that denominations would come to him and learn from him. So that is his Guru Bhav, universal Guru Bhav. It does not take one long to understand another truth when one studies the order of the coming of those sadhus and sadhakas to the master at Dakshineshwar. And because it will be convenient to study the order in which they came, we have in this chapter, try to tell the reader the narratives of the master in his own language as far as possible. The Vedanta used to come, then the Ramayans came like that. And in their proper order and sequence, exactly as we heard them from him. We heard from the master himself that whenever he engaged himself in the discipline and worship of particular aspects of God and realized them, the true aspirants of those communities devoted to those aspects of the deity began to pour in groups for some time, and days and nights were passed with them in the discussion of those divine aspects. We have seen the exception that Bhairavi came and taught him, and then she learned from him. Totapuri came and taught him, and then he learned from him. But others came after he realized. Ramayatpanthi Sadhu came from him, and he, from that image itself, he got learned, and then that Ramlala stayed with him. And Thakur told like that Ramayati started coming. So, it is not exactly, my mind sometimes thinks, it is not exactly that after he realized then they came for every matter. But they were there when he realized. For example, Bhairavi came, then he became perfect in Tantra sadhana. But then he taught her. Totapuri came and taught him Vedanta sadhana. He became perfect and then Tota learned from him. The Ramayat Panthi sadhu did not teach him anything. But he came. And when he was there, Thakur attained perfection in that sadhana. And then the Ramayat Panthi stayed with him and learned from him. Like that. So, when he had perfection, those sadhus came. As soon as he attained perfection in the worship of the mantra of Rama, the monks of the Rama denomination started coming to him in large numbers after Jatadhari also. No sooner had he been established in each of the devotional moods of Shanta Dasya, etc., spoken of in devotional books of Bengal, than devotees practicing those moods streamed in. Is this Bhav Panchak limited to Bengal? Gaudiya Vaishnava Tantra. The then eminent tantricas, aspirants of this part of the country, came to him when he had completed the disciplines prescribed in the 64 tantras with the help of the Bhairavi Brahman. So other tantricas came after he reached perfection. Hardly had he perfected himself and attained immediate experience of Brahman according to the non-dual doctrine, when the good sadhakas of that Paramahansa denomination came to him in large number. That we have seen. Astivati Priya discussing about. The manifestation of power in all the incarnations of God is not seen to be the same. For some of them came to impart religion to a particular people and some to all humanity. So even in incarnation there is gradation, or for some or for like that. For example, now Ganeshwar is taken as incarnation of Krishna. But his influence may go everywhere. But primarily he worked for the people of Maharashtra. Buddha, Jesus, whole world influence. Like that, Thakur is supreme among them. That is what he should do. Even a boy will not take long to understand that there is a hidden meaning in the fact that the aspirants of different denominations came thus to have the divine company of the Master at the auspicious advent of the incarnation of the age. It always happened thus in the world in the past and will happen so in the future. According to a mysterious law of the spiritual world, these incarnations are born in every age in order to avert the decline of religion or to brighten up the almost extinguished light of spirituality. Here one thing I want to comment. What is this age? Age. Now what is the meaning of the word age? Yuga. Now are there 4 yugas? Yes. Repeating. In Kali Yuga, how many incarnations have come? So Yuga does not mean these 4. That is what I want to tell you. Then how to define an Yuga? Important thing. We call Sri Ramakrishna as the Yuga avatar. What is its meaning? What is a Yuga? Can you tell? Have you thought about it? Certain period. Certain period. How to define that period? You see, man's real nature is Brahman. That is not going to change. Man can have so many relations with Brahman, that is not going to change. But man's mind changes totally. Do we not call this as the age of science? We can hear you. We can hear you. Don't you call it? Now you understand age. Does a man in this age think as the past? Does he dress like the past? So this is an age when man's thinking completely changes its nature. And that Saradananda has discussed in the first part. This decline of religion has the support of materialistic researches. Now, about this age, let me talk a little more. We know that this is age of science. Other than that, we know what changes have come in man. Due to science, this industrial revolution started. Along with that, a social revolution took place, political in appearance, but social revolution churning the whole world. It is called the French Revolution. You heard about the French Revolution? What was their slogan? Liberty, equality, fraternity. Now, in India, for example, for 1200 years, Swamiji says, what is the position of women? Child producing instruments or man's enjoyment. Who thought of women as human beings? The Muslim religion, wrongly of course, people think that in Muslim religion women have no souls. So women are objects only. Now do people do think like that? Women are competing or being equal to men in every field. Is it not? And what we call common man, you see, if you go by Varna, Brahmins by birth, if you take, Brahmins are not even 5% in India. You know that? You are aware of this? You should know this. I will tell a funny incident. When this minority thing was going on, I was in Chennai. The president of Chennai Math was Revered Swami Tapasyanand. He said the Brahmins should declare their minority. They are only 3% here. 3% in Tamil Nadu. Now, it's difficult to go by numbers, but my rough calculation, Kshatriyas may be 20%, Vaishyas 25%, and more than 50% people throughout the world are Shudras. Now you know, these Sikhs say we don't follow caste, but now Dalit Sikhs want reservation. Buddhism does not recognize any caste. So Dr. Ambedkar made lakhs and crores of Harijans into Buddhas. Now Buddhas they are called. But they want reservation. So society is like a spiral. The base is always common man. Understood now? Now in Swamiji's time, when he went to Malabar, what you call Kerala today, you have read Swamiji's life? Malabar portion is already gone. A Shudra had to tie a crow's feather to his head cap and walk on the edge of the road. Even if a shadow falls on the other caste people, they will be polluted. Swamiji said, if this thing continues, whole Malabar will become a lunatic asylum. Now I am describing this. Now the Shudras have the upper hand. Is it not? So this is the age when women, Shudras, they want liberty, they want equality. I will tell an incident from my life. Haldwani had a lecture from Almoda Ashram. Now for 1 year they had conducted competitions. So prize distribution and my lecture. Now so much crowd came after my lecture. The whole hall became too much packed. So I said, girls first. Let girls come and take their prizes first. Girls protested. They did not like that. We don't want privilege. We want equality. I cannot forget that incident. I said, I also, well, do you think we are weak? We want equality. Then he said, I also follow your thing only. But because boys rush in, so I said girls first. This is the age. And what Thakur has done? Take women first. In any incarnation you have seen, Thakur accepted Kali as the idol, as the Adarsh, worship. Thakur accepted Bhairavi Brahmani as the Guru. Thakur, and in the Ramakrishna mission, after Thakur has done this. Who is the supreme authority? Even today I will say. Holy Mother. You know those incidents? Swami Vivekananda said you have gone to High Court. Mahapurush Maharaj said you have gone to Supreme Court. In Chandigarh, in Haryana Rajbhavan, there was a meeting on the how each religion contributes to the harmony. And the Sikh man said that in Hinduism, wrongly, you know one Tulsi Dasa's couplet, famous it has become. Dhola Gawara Shudra Pashu Nari, ye sabat tadana ke adhikari. No, unfortunately, this is not Tulsi Dasa saying. When Ram wanted to cross and go to Lanka, that ocean was not obliging. So Ram said, I will dry you up by my arrows, totally. Then that ocean came in a human form. And he said like this. You know, one famous discourser on this, Ramcharitmanas, have you heard? Ram Kinkarji. Our Raipur people famous for their discourses on Ramcharitmanas, completely copying from Ram Kinkarji's book. So Ram Kinkarji used to say, Ram Kinkarji had told in his book that if an author wants to tell his opinion, either he comes out of dialogue and talks, or he talks from the mouth of the hero. And this is avagyakari bhritta. One servant, disobedient servant, in his mouth he has put this. It is not his opinion. But unfortunately, both people quote it. Those who want to denounce Hinduism, they say this is Hinduism. And those who want to behave like that, they also say Tulsidas ji has said like that. So that Sikh people pointed out, Sikh speaker, and they say Sikh follow equality. I said, is there place for any woman in the 10 Gurus? Where is equality? And in Thakur Sampradaya, there is a separate Sardamat. And for Ramakrishna Mission, the supreme authority is Holy Mother, even today. So that is the honor given to women by Thakur. We have heard of a women's sleep movement. Where you are living, Papa? This was there in every country, mind you. Swami Vivekananda has told in America that when I came out as graduate, many girls also came out as graduate from Calcutta University. And in America, I see that there is separate women's college. Women are not going to boys' college. So this was everywhere. So in America, they started a women's liberation movement. And they went their own way. After 30, 40 years, that leader who started, she said, I've gone in a wrong way. So where is the women's liberation? Holy Mother has shown. Girls are not getting married. Why worry? Send to Nivedita school. Women's education, women's smart. Women's Thakur himself told that Gaurdasi, you start something for girls. So that is Thakur's contribution, Yuga Avatar. And about common man, we are reading the life of Latu Maharaj these days. And more than that, you know the story of Rasik Mehtar? Have you heard of this? The Mehtar is not sweeper, Bhangi, employed in the Kali temple. His name was Rasik. You know his story? You don't know. You see, seeing Sri Ramakrishna, Rasik had got full devotion for him. But he could not approach him. One day Thakur was walking alone in the garden. So Rasik thought, this is my opportunity. So he went and sat, bent knees and said, will you not salvage me? Thakur said, you are mother sweeper. It has already happened to you. They say, when you say it has happened, I have to accept. But how shall I know it? Thakur said, you will see on your last moment, I will come hold your hand and take you with me. And that thing happened. Thakur was not physically present there. Rasik, when he became invalid, incapacitated, he was in his own room. And at the last point, he suddenly got up and said, বাবা তুমি এসেছো, নিজের কথা রেখেছো? আর extended his hand and passed away. So with it is common man. Latu Maharaj has the same honor in Ramakrishna mission as any Brahmagya Purush. We are reading that like. Nothing is given in that book. So many thrilling incidents are there in that Maharaj. So, Vijnana Yuga I am not telling, because Vijnana Yuga everybody knows. Vijnana Yuga, what it is known for? Demonstrate physically everything. Then we accept. And in Thakur's life, even the negative qualities have become palpable. Negative means vairagya. Vairagya is a negative something, apparently. And Swami Vivekananda kept a coin below Thakur's bedding without anybody's knowledge. And when Thakur came and sat on it, like a scorpion bite or some thorn, he jumped. People thought that something thorn is there or something, they cleaned, nothing. Then they lifted the gadi and shook. Then the coin fell down. As the coin fell down, Thakur looked at Swamiji. Swamiji felt ashamed, but equally happy, I have seen. Vairagya has been demonstrated. Everything. Swamiji has described that near that center of the Western education, Calcutta, in Dakshineshwar, Thakur opened the laboratory. See what you want to see. We have seen that, Ramayana, Babaji and everything. See, one thing. Second thing about Vijnana Yoga is that it has brought the world physically very close together. Previously, what we are doing in Kerala, the man in Orissa had nothing to do with it, let alone foreign countries. But now everybody is watching everybody. So either we quarrel or live in peace. There comes Thakur's religious harmony. For the age of science. That is why Thakur is called Yuga Avatar. You understood now? In a brief, I have told. Another dimension I want to talk. Do you know that in these days, the children do not accept the elders' advice? You know that? I will tell you incident again. One Punjabi couple were staying in America. Their father died of a road accident. Now, that they had one young son, and he was becoming uncontrollable to the mother. So mother brought him to India. Her own house, their parents' house was in Chandigarh. She kept that boy in Calcutta, in Culture Institute. He was staying for 1 year. He was a devotee, but could not be controlled. She took him back to America. Now that boy once in Chandigarh talking to me. Shall I accept that man saying because he is 60 years old? Why should I accept? Simply because he is 60 years old? But I said, but you are accepting what we say. You are great, I can understand. But simply by age does one become great? This is throughout India now. Good or bad is not the thing. This is the age. Now I started thinking what Thakur has told about it, what Swamiji has told about it. What the answer I got? Thakur has shown it, not talked about it. Is it not same in Thakur's life? That old ladies told him something he did not accept. And when his mother told him in such a way that he could understand, he accepted. Swami Vivekananda, that old man said there is ghost on that, he did not accept. So that is Yuga Avatar. We must give respect to the young child also. According to a mysterious law of the spiritual world, these incarnations are born in every age in order to avoid the decline of religion or to brighten up almost extinguished light of spirituality. But when we study their lives, we find that there is a difference in the manifestation of power in them. And it becomes clear that some of them came to remove the want of a particular part of a country or of a few particular communities, while others came to remove the lack of spirituality in the whole world. Take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as much as he is worshipped in Bengal and near about places, other people do not know him even about him. He is an incarnation. Or of a few particular communities, while others came, or of a few particular communities. That means uh, for this, for Maharashtra or like that, or for a particular caste. In Kerala, incarnation or not, Swami Vivekananda said that in your own, there are so many castes there, and the lowest caste. Swamiji said, in your community, a Mahapurush will rise. Then you will understand religion. You know, have you heard about Narayan Guru? So Kerala became influenced by Narayan Guru. Narayan Guru's name is not in other caste of people, other people do not know him. But all of them, it is seen everywhere, promulgate their own doctrines and the knowledge discovered by them and keep intact the authenticity of the spiritual teachings of the preceding sages, teachers and incarnations instead of destroying them. This where you see very clearly, Christ says, I have not come to destroy, I have come to fulfill. And everywhere these sages, they don't destroy the previous thing. They discover new things and promulgate according to the need of the age. For through their divine yogic power, they see an order of succession and a relation among the previous spiritual doctrines and faiths. There is a continuity with change. So now the doctrine should be in this way. That history of the spiritual world and the relation among the ancient religious doctrines always remain hidden from our vision, which is blinded by attachment to the worldly objects. They see the previous religious doctrines as strung together like a string of gems. Continuity. And add the next required gem to it in the light of their experience of spirituality and quietly pass out. Saradananda Swamiji's vision of the whole world religion. The comparison of the manifestation of spiritual power, the incarnation, the founders of Hindu, Jewish, Christian and Muslim religions on the one hand and that of the master on the other. We shall understand this clearly by the study of the history of some foreign religion. Take for example Jesus, who came and promulgated the truths experienced by him and kept intact the religious doctrines preached by the Jewish teachers. Something wonderful will come out of it. Shall I tell a little? It is a very wrong assumption of the Christians that the Sermon on the Mount is for general masses. When the multitude was there, Christ went up a hill. That means he avoided masses. And when his disciples came to him, he opened his mouth. And there he said, the old law will never change. Law given by Moses, contained in the Old Testament. 10 commandments, he says. And there a tooth for a tooth and a nail for a nail, it is written. Jesus said, but I say unto you, if somebody slaps you on one cheek, show him the other cheek. Is it for everybody? Hypocrisy came to Christianity because thinking of this is for everybody. They cannot practice it. And they have to show they practice it. But I say unto you, chosen few, like Thakur's Antaranga disciples. Anyway, so Jesus is taking, kept intact the religious doctrines preached by the Jewish teachers. Again, Muhammad came a few centuries later and preached his own doctrine without destroying the doctrine promulgated by Jesus. He accepts Jesus. This does not prove that the doctrines prescribed by the Jewish teachers or by Jesus are imperfect. In other words, this does not prove that by following those doctrines, one cannot realize those aspects of God which they realize. That can surely be done. If you follow those doctrines, you will realize those aspects. Again, by following the doctrines preached by Muhammad, one can also realize that aspect of God which Muhammad did. This is the law everywhere in the spiritual world. It must be understood that the same law applies to the religious doctrines of India too. You will realize any particular aspect of God by rightly following that particular doctrine, preached for that purpose by the Vedic rishis, or the great teachers, the authors of the Tantras and the Puranas. They are valid today. The master engaged himself in the disciplines according to the doctrines of all the denominations one after the another. He realized this grand truth just mentioned and communicated it to us. As many faiths, so many paths. The reason why the sadhus and sadhakas of all denominations came to the master. When the flower blossoms bees come, the master told us many a time that this was the law in the spiritual world also. It is according to this law that as soon as an incarnation of God gets illumination or realizes the truth of the spiritual world, those thirsting for religion are attracted to him in order to know and learn it. The reason why the aspirants of all denominations came to the master, group after group, and not merely those of one denomination only, is that having trod all denominational paths and having realized all the aspects of God realizable through them, he could give specific information about each of them. How this Shiv Ganesh Seva come to you know? Thakur was talking about what the Vaishnavas teach. So he was talking about every faith, what they teach, what they teach, what they teach. And one point slightly modified. Because for him, all paths are paths, all faiths are paths. He did not come to destroy. And by his coming, all the faiths got infused with vigor. Sarva dharma sthapakas. But all of these aspirants did not achieve perfection in the practice of their own doctrines, nor could they recognize the Master as the incarnation of the age. It was the best of them only who could do so. But each of them made progress along his own path by virtue of the divine company of the Master and was perfectly convinced that he would certainly realize God at the right time. Everybody did not become perfect immediately. A few people did, but others got correct faith on their path and went ahead. At the right time, if he went on his own path. It is superfluous to add that decline in religion arises through loss of faith in one's own path, which makes it impossible for the aspirant to realize spirituality in his own life. It is not true that the spiritual propensity in the master got awakened by virtue of his company with the sadhus who came to. Some people put it the cart before the horse. They think he learned from them and practice. There is widespread talk nowadays that the master learned the methods of sadhana leading to God realization from those monks, engaged himself in too severe austerities, and went mad at one time. That his brain became deranged, and there came on him a permanent physical disease of losing normal consciousness under the influence of excessive emotion of any kind. My God, we are such a herd of learned fools. The race of the rishis of India showed in their own lives and explained in us through the Vedas and the Puranas that the normal consciousness vanished as one ascended to the plane of Samadhi through the complete concentration of the mind. They left behind for us the full explanation of the scriptures relating to Samadhi, which does not exist among any other people anywhere. To talk of Nirvikalpa Samadhi does not occur in any religion. And all the great souls who have till now been regarded in the world as incarnations of God and been receiving the reverence of human hearts in all countries experience in their own life this loss of consciousness and explain to us again and again that it was inevitable in spiritual progress. But in spite of all this, if we still speak or listen to, if we still speak or listen to and believe those hollow words, God help us. O reader, if you think it is desirable, you may hear those meaningless words credulously. May you and those who say so proceed, prosper, but kindly allow us the liberty of lying at the feet of this wonderful God intoxicated man and try once more to understand it well. Before you decide, before you decide it one way or the other, see that the state described by the ancient author of the Upanishads does not come on you. What is that state? Just as one blind man guided by another meets with disaster, so people devoid of discrimination who consider themselves to be intelligent and well versed in the scriptures live in ignorance and pass through various transmigrations. It is not a new thing that the master Bhav Samadhi is called a disease. Many persons educated in the Western way said so, even while the master was living. But as time passed on, the insane talks and predictions of that divinely inebriated man came true more and more. And the more his extraordinary ideas were eagerly sought and accepted by the people all over the world, the more did their statement lose its force. It met with the same fate as a handful of dust thrown at the moon. It falls on the man who has thrown, that's all. And fully discovering that all such statements were erroneous, people came to the certain conclusion that the master's words were true and preserved their tranquility of mind. It will happen so now also. For truth cannot be kept covered any more than fire by a piece of cloth. It is therefore not necessary for us to make any effort to expound it further. We would quote a word or two of the master himself on the topic and pass on to another. The loss of normal consciousness during the master's samadhi was not a disease. The conversation between the master and Shivanath is a proof of it. Now, Shivanath was telling due to different reasons. You see the old Samaj, Keshav, due to Keshav's some disciples broke away and they made another Samaj. Now Keshav became fully influenced by Thakur. And the other Samaj leaders were Shivnath and Vijay Krishna. Vijay Krishna became influenced by Thakur. So people started leaving his Samaj. So Shivnath told, don't go to him, he is mad. And that came to Thakur. People told him. Shivnath himself used to go. When Shivnath came, Thakur talked to him. That is the thing. Our revered friend, अच्छा friend বলছেন revered বলছেন এ কি wrong translation রে সাধারণ ব্রহ্ম সমাজের আচার্যদিগের মধ্যে অন্যতম শ্রদ্ধাস্পদ শিবনাথ শাস্ত্রী মাস ফ্রেন্ড ঠাকুরের ভাব সমাধির স্নায়ুকার প্রচুর যোগ বিশেষ বলিয়া তখন হইতে আমাদের কাহারো কাহারো নিকট নির্দেশ করিতেন No, some anomaly comes at pencil is not there. Red pencil has fallen somewhere. Shivnath is not Saradananda Swamiji's friend, please. Instead of our revered friend, we may only say revered Sri Shivnath Shastri. Remove our and friend. Revered Sri Shivnath Shastri, who was one of the teachers of the general Brahma Samaj, said to some of us during the lifetime of the master, here another word is to be explained, need not be explained now, it will digression. What is the general Brahma Samaj? General does not mean something special and something general. Now what English word can be? You see, Keshav becomes so much influenced by Indian things that his Samaj was started called by people Bharatvarshiya Brahma Samaj. The others want to show that we are not Bharatvarshi. Not that we are foreigners, but we are for the whole world. So that was called Sadharan Brahmas. Sadharan does not mean ordinary. Generally is not a bad word, but the meaning does not come. You understand now? Universal light. who was one of the teachers of, or they could have put Sadhana Brahma Samaj, the broader Brahma Samaj. And to some of us during the lifetime of the Master, said to some of us during the lifetime of the Master that the Master's Bhav Samadhi was a disease, hysteria or epileptic fits produced by nervous disorder, and simultaneously expressed the opinion that he became unconscious at the time the ordinary people suffering from that disease, like ordinary people suffering from that disease. This remark gradually reached the Master's ear. Much earlier, Shivnath used to visit the Master from time to time. One day when he came to the, now again here, used to in the past, and then he came. Hoite, hoite. A link is missed. You understand? From earlier times, instead of much earlier. From earlier times, even though he is coming. Otherwise, this gets disconnected. Much earlier used to come and he came. He used to come. From much earlier times, Shivnath used to come, visit the Master from time to time. One day when he came to Dakshineshwar, the Master raised that topic and said to him, Master himself raised that topic. Look here, Shivnath, is it true that you call these a disease and say that I become unconscious at that time? Thakur's reply, you people remain all right, although you apply your minds night and day to insentient things like brick, wood, earth, money, etc. And I who think night and day of him whose consciousness makes the whole universe conscious, become unconscious. चैतन्य के भावले अचैतन्य हो, अरे तुम्हें ईट माटी पत्थर के भेवे चैतन्य. Where have you borrowed your intellect from? Shivnath remained silent. Now you have to explain the other side. The reason why the Master behaved like a madman during the time of sadhana. The Master used the words divine madness, madness of knowledge, divyonmad, jnanonmad, etc. to us every day, and freely said to all that a powerful storm of divine love raged in his life for 12 years. He used to say, just as when dust is raised by a storm, all things look alike, and trees like the mango, jackfruit, etc. cannot be seen, far less distinguished from one another. Even so, a state came on me which did not allow me to know good from bad, praise from blame, cleanliness from uncleanliness. There was one thought, one idea only, namely, how to realize it. This was what occupied the mind every moment. People said he has become mad. Different from us, so mad. Now, we are entering a particular case now. Tomorrow, because full case has to be read together. Om Sarvadharmastapakastam Sarvadharmaswarupaka Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishnayate Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
Jaya